Welcome everybody to Blender Today live episode 85. But it's not about the episodes, it's about the Blender release. Happy release everybody. 2.81 has seen the day of light. It's been downloaded over 150,000 times already. I was checking out the numbers, but I think it's even more than that because also it's available on Steam and it's just all over the place. So happy to be sharing the news. Today we're going to talk about not 2.81 because that's like old, right? This is Blender Today, and 81 was like maybe how much ago? 3, 4, 5 days ago. And you were learning about the new things already for a while. The star of the show today is Blender 2.82, which has started development. Actually started a few weeks ago already, but now it starts for real because the developers, they don't have to worry anymore about 2.81 and is now on 2.82. And you know what's the star of the show? No, it's not you, themes. It's not all the fancy new stuff. There are actually a lot of performance improvements. This thing that everybody's asking for, everybody, even the developers, of course, they've been taking care of performance since the Blender 2.80 release. But you know, things take a while, but I'm pretty happy when I was going through the changes that I'm going to show this week that actually many of those are related to performance, to making Blender faster and more, you know, like get all this thing, get its stuff together, I would say, because there are so many areas that have been changed in 2.80 and 2.81 that they deserve, you know, a bit better performant software. So okay, let's get to it. So Blender 2.81, is everybody using it already? Are you using it locally? There have been some reports about performance and stuff, also some graphics card issues. Some of people got it to work with their they didn't get 2.80 to work, but 2.81 they did for some reason in all the graphics cards. But some other people have had issues. So if you have, go to get the latest build, because the code hasn't changed that much. There are a lot of performance improvements and some new things that we're gonna discover today, but really it's fairly stable. I could say fairly stable even if you're working in production. So even, of course, backup and like the typical warning, but I would use 2.82 alpha for the time being if you want to. So okay, let's get to it. So have you seen the new? By the way, yes, I spent. Oh, I did. I'm not sharing the chat. Let me see the chat so you can actually see you hanging out there. And there, boom, say hi. So the this page. A lot of people like it, so I'm happy. I spent most of the last week working on it, and I think it shares most of the updates. There are still many things in the sculpting that there's just too many new things that I couldn't fit in here without making it super heavy to load. I wanted people to be able to browse it without even needing too much bandwidth. So let's get already to the new things that are here, because 2.82, 2.82 is what is the future, right? We just launched 2.81, 2.82 is the future, but actually, you know what? Even 2.82 is already like old news because the dates for 2.83 have been set already. So yeah, don't panic. It's just the dates, just so the developers know. It's like, okay, if I don't get my code reviewed and ready for, say, December, it's the first weeks of December, then my code can go into 2.83. So at least they know. So don't worry. It's not like you're already outdated, but it's good to have you know, like a date, something to look after. So yeah, release in mid-May, and the new features should be able to start dropping in January. So the release for 2.82, actually you can see it here on the website, developer.blender.org. In the project BF Blender, you can see the milestones. So you see that here that there is 2.82, which is an upcoming release. So there will be room for adding new features until December 12th, where Beacon 2 start. And then the release hopefully will be around mid-February. So yeah, it's exciting to already start talking about all the new stuff. All right, so let's start by parts, because the list today is actually fairly long. Remember, this is live, so you can start asking questions on Blender.Today, the website where we host this community, and where hopefully somebody created a post where, yes, here 39 comments already, 41. Thank you, Momotron, for making the thread. I want to start answering the questions towards the end of the show, but let's get to it. So let's get to the new things, because the moment 2.81 was released, Pablo Vazquez started adding new things. So if you go, if you go to Blender.Today on Twitter, I posted here a funny image, because it was crazy. I was literally, we were literally just releasing 2.81, like at 6 o'clock, and then immediately after, Pablo Vazquez started posting, like before 5:30 or so, I pressed the button to release 2.81 on the Blender.org website, and Pablo Vazquez in like 20 minutes is like, okay, now it's my time. So he started adding new features. But I'm going to talk about it in a bit, because you know what's also new, and you know what big improvement was added? A Summer of Code project. These projects that are sponsored by Google, that we have every year, and Blender is lucky enough to get awesome students and mentors, and the approval of Google to add those features. So we already seen a few added to 2.81, especially the nodes, the node stuff, and the outliner. The old improvements in the outliner are thanks to the Google Summer of Code. So this addition to from the Summer of Code is actually the new bevel custom profiles. So yes, you know bevel, the modifier and the tool. So if you add a modifier, is easier to see. So by default it's a bit too strong, but here. So bevel, this very nice, super important tool that makes your corners less boring by adding a bit of extra geometry. Here, now there is a setting. Let's add a bit more geometry. So okay, let's say maybe here, 8 subdivisions. So there is a new setting here. I'm gonna put the screen up here so you can see it. There is a new setting that is called Custom Profile. It's, once you enable it, you will see that actually the whole widget of curves shows up. And if you can see, it's a straight line, but as soon as you start making a little bit of a shape here, bam, you can customize the borders, the shape of the profile, and it is awesome. This is really awesome. It's like modeling for free, like without actually having to model. You just make a very nice shape, and look at this, super nice. Okay, let's shade it smooth. Of course, it works better if you have a bit more geometry, so the inner parts look a bit more detail. And of course, if you want more resolution, just go up the segments. And my favorite feature of this awesomeness is that you can disable the clipping with this button up here, profile clipping. And it means that you can actually now, if you zoom out, you can pull these controls even above of the of the mesh. So you're actually like basically like pulling out pieces of your mesh. So that's insane. With the clipping, you just clip it all the way to the top, but if you disable the clipping, you can zoom out and then just basically go nuts. Just like, bam, let's this is not meant to be that way, but you can basically model inside of your bevel. That's crazy. That's super nice. So how does it behave if I make it in here like a concave? Or is it convex? Which one is it? Bam. Nice. And of course you can add a subsurf. You can do a bunch of stuff. There is one setting that is important to know is here, this thing, the mess that it happens in the corners. Once you start going crazy with the profile shape, it's hard to do this, to connect the edges, right? It's tricky. So there is an option called cut off, which would basically just cut this and try not to be so smart in adding in connecting the sides, because the normals of one side could be fine, but the normals on the other side could be wrong. So when it tries to connect them, it can make like a weird corner. So just use cut off in case you need to have a more clean borders. So super nice, super amazingly nice. So yes, let's give some credit where credit is due. Hans, you are amazing. Hans Goody, thank you for bringing this amazing tool to everybody. You are awesome, and let's hope to see more contributions from you in the future. Or the present. I don't know what you're working on right now. Awesome. Cool. All right. Let's move on, because this was the modeling part. Now let's go into the sculpt part, which I already teased a little bit with all the commits from Pablo Navarro. So let's find out here. Sculpt slash painting. Well, actually, we can already see all the commits here, but Pablo was so nice that he's actually adding he's making videos and making my life easier by just making a video, for example, of this feature, dash radio and dash samples. What does it mean? When you want to sculpt like stitches, for example, or when you paint stitches, well, now you can control this setting for the radius and for the ratio and the samples, how many samples. So you basically can do this very nice points slash stitching. Super neat. Look at all the love that people are giving to this. I think Pablo can win the award to Rockstar of the Year with this development he's been doing in the last few months. All right, so dash ratio and dash samples. Let's move to the next one, because he already also implemented clay strips, input pressure curve, and new default. So the clay strips is already there. This feature has been around for a while, but he changed the defaults. And I think there was another video here. Yeah, we can see it a bit more clearly. So yeah, new defaults that make it feel a bit more than more like clay. Also, it's very nice to give credit to the developers, like in this case, Jeroen Bakker, for example, for actually reviewing the code. Because one thing is to code it, and then somebody also has to go through the code and review it and give feedback. So that's also nice to mention sometimes. Okay, new brush alert. The clay brush. So this clay brush actually feels a lot more like like adding clay, like filling in the gaps. So here we can see a little bit of the demo that he prepared, and for example here, when he's filling the mouth of Suzanne by just, I really like it that it keeps on the side, it keeps the like the level, so to speak, and then you can quickly fill it in like if it was actual clay. So the previous clay brush was similar to flatten, Pablo writes. Now it has a different plane calculation and fall off based on the position of the vertices before, so it feels more like adding clay to a model. Super nice, thank you. Next, what is next feature? I'm actually going through these ones really fast, but that's because there's a lot to cover this week. This one is an improvement to the symmetrize operator, the one that makes both sides symmetrical. So I make a change, you press this command, and it will make the other side symmetric. This used to work only with the in-topo dynamic topology, and now it also works without. So now the symmetrize options are still in the in-topo panel, but there are patches to improve that, to change that, because it doesn't make sense that the feature is in the in-topo when one now works outside of the in-topo. But if you were using the symmetrize option a lot before, know that you can do it now even without the in-topo enabled. All right, this one I also like. The new brush alert. Again, people, multiplane scrape brush, or how I like to call it, the one for wrinkles, or the one for... This one I can demo it myself, like a grown-up, because it really is very easy to use. It says, you're going to find it here on the side with the name Multiplane Scrape, and doesn't have an icon yet, but once you start using it, you will see that the shape of the cursor changes to show you the direction where it's gonna do this shape. So it's super nice. You can do weird stuff, more like, yeah, you can do wrinkles, or you can if you do it on top of it, it's gonna make it even thinner. Oh, nice. Huh. Also, you see, like, it depends on where you start the brush, like when you start painting with the brush, and it'll show you the flaps going up or down depending on the direction. But it's very, very, very cool. You can make a shell like this. Ornaments, yeah, exactly, like ornaments, like Jean says in the chat. Super nice. Miniature Japanese garden simulator. Super cool. Super nice. Oh, for the ear. You want to model the ear, for example? Super neat. Or like in this demo by Pablo Vazquez himself. Super neat. Oh, and it's also using it for this kind of shape. Well, okay, with a very, very much stronger... It can also create creases that change between concave and convex during the same stroke. So at the same time, it can start going in, and then it switches to outside. It's pretty nice. Yeah. Awesome. Well, if you want to see these videos, you can go to developer.blender.org, and the name of the differential, the code itself, it's D6174. So you go to developer.blender.org/ this number, D for differential. Differential means the difference between the... It's a code. It's a diff between the original code and this patch. But you've probably seen it already if you're familiar with if you're in the Sculpt family, because people have been giving so much love to it already. And it looks like super fun to use. Okay, this is a new operator. It's called Mask Slice. What does it do? What it says, basically you draw. It's an operator that lets you draw, for example, you draw a box, for example, a box mask in this case, or just any kind of mask, and then with the option in the mask menu, mask slice, you can basically slice it. And there's an option to slice and fill the holes, and one to do it without it. So basically, say I want to, for example, cut the sides of this a little bit. Okay, so I go to box mask, for example, I make a nice box on the side, and I can from the mask menu do mask slice and fill the holes, which is gonna cut the sides and leave this, as you can see it here. Or you can also do a mask slice into a new object. So in that case, it should make a new object from the slice. So as you can see here, they are now a new object. The connection, like the holes themselves, they're very low poly. So this is like only works in some cases, I guess. You may want to remesh it before, or here, as you can see in the commit in the logs themselves by Pablo, he said this is not meant to be the main trimming tool of Sculpt mode. I plan to have a set of trimming tools based on geometry booleans, trim box, lasso, line, bisect, etc. But in some cases, doing a mass selection is more convenient. So yeah, it's for convenience. It might not give the best result all the time, but it's convenient, especially if you don't want to fill in these holes. All right, let's continue. Invert scrape to fill. Okay, so the scrape tool, you probably are familiar with it. We already seen the multi scrape. So the multi-scrape, the inverted of the inverted stroke or tool for the scrape is currently the peaks, apparently brush, but according to what Pablo says here, is for this case is to use the fill brush. So apparently the fill brush is a bit more what the inverted version of the scrape tool should do. Like after seeing all these demos, I'm not experienced enough with sculpting to even tell the difference between all the brushes. I should see that everything that is, it looks better basically, everything. So this is a change in the inverted tool for the scrape tool. Like when you press Control and you do the inverted version of it. For example, well, you can see them here. For example, there is the scrape, and here, and the inverted. So when you invert the tool with Control. And last but not least, there is a smoother curve. There is no video for this one, but basically the smooth curve preset for fall off now has a few more points. So when you use custom, for example, you can add as many points as you want. Now the internal one for smooth, is a bit more defined, which produces a flat surface at the brush center. Some users find that our current grab brush is too sharp. So now we have both options. This also improves the behavior of the new clay brushes. So yeah, this one I had to read it from the commit logs because I didn't know exactly what it did. Time to change topic. Animation / rigging. There is a new tool in the graph editor for decimating curves. So let's see, for example, I have this cube and I animate it here in a very amazing animation that I can see on the animation workspace. And let's see the graph editor. Did you know, by the way, that you can press Ctrl Tab to switch between the dope sheet and the graph editor? It's very nice. So you only need one and you should switch between them. So let's see the option for decimate curves in the graph editor. This new option works better when, of course, you have more points in your curve. It's like a decimate for geometry. When you have a lot of geometry, it reduces the amount of points or geometry in the case of the one for meshes, but keeping the shape. So for example, I'm gonna add a lot of points here. I'm gonna use the sample maybe. So channel key, where is sample? Here, sample keyframe. Okay, so let's say I have way too many keyframes, like in this case. This is an extreme case, but you get the point. So I only really have detail on the curves, but here in this part, I could use with less points. So in this case is the decimate comes really in handy. So you can find it in the key menu under decimate keyframes. You press it, and now, as you can see, the shape itself is preserved, but there is only detail where it's needed. So this is very, very handy. If you do this, it's gonna make your animation faster, especially if you have already baked something and the playback is a bit slow. This is gonna make it compute faster because it has less points to think about, basically, and also to draw. So you can tweak this from the edit last operation or F9, adjust last operation or F9. And so if I press F9, I can tweak the percentage. So how much I want it to affect. One is no decimate at all. Or no, it's actually full percent. Is this 1000% or this is 0.1%? Strange. Okay. But you get the idea. I think by default is 0.3. All right. More features. For riggers, is there a rigger in-house here in the chat? Okay, riggers rejoice because there is a new way to inherit scales for bones. So some time ago, I talked about this feature that was added. It's part of Blender 2.81 that adds more options to the way the scale of the bones are inherited from the parents. So these options I already mentioned many weeks ago for fixed shear, average, known legacy, which is the old one, or full, gets the whole scale of the bone based on the parent. Here, there is a new setting that is, this new mode inherits parent scale as if the parent and the child were not rotated relative to each other, always applying the parent X scale to child X scale and so forth. And that's it. I'm not gonna go into details because I haven't tested it myself, but you can read more. And I bet if you're a rigger, this sounds super interesting. It's a D6099, the name of differential, if you want to check out more. What else? Time to go into the most fun, not more fun, most interesting part. Performance. Performance, the king of anything. I think even websites that feel faster to browse are more fun than some sloppy ones. Everything really gets better if it performs properly. So let's get to it. This one. The name, the descriptions, you may not even get it. I don't get some of this one, like BLI task, initial implementation, blah blah blah. Something to do with, like, just to so everybody gets it, including myself. This is my way of like, no, so everybody gets it. I'm gonna just skim through it because of course I understand every piece of code. Oh yeah. So okay, something about threading was improved. That basically the way of handling tasks inside of Blender, now it's more performance the more threads your computer have. So in this case, for example, there is a performance test on 32 on a computer with 32 threads for a set of 10 different tasks. Show the following improvements when using this new feature or improvement. So with 10,000 items in or 10,000 tasks, there has been a 2.5 speed up. So okay, the speed itself improvement is like very, very, very small, but it's everything adds to the performance. However, let's see another improvement that was done that I already mentioned last week. It was a performance improvement for cycles, VVH building on Windows. So remember that video that says that cycles is twice as fast in Linux and Windows is behind and stuff? Well, after looking into it, some of the developers, in this case Lazy Dodo, found one of the improvements that could be done, and there is up to 20 in some renders. For example, in the Victor from Cosmos Laundromat, it's up to 24% faster some cases. But I already talked about it last week. You know so much about the industry stuff, blah blah blah. Well, Stefan Werner, the developer that has been working on cycles, and he works at for Tangent, in one of the the guys making Next Gen, that they made Next Gen, the feature film for Netflix. They say, he's posting here, on some of the larger scenes that I threw at it with 20 cores and 40 threads, the benefits are tremendous. Cycles render preparation time went from 40 minutes to 8 minutes. 8 minutes doing nothing, just because. Now the render time went from 40 to 8 minutes. That's insane. It's huge. How much improvement is there? I don't know. Many percents. So I just wanted to mention how big of a change. If you're rendering with cycles, there is really I would just drop 2.81 and go to the 2.82 alpha, because then you can find this improvement. More improvements. This one I don't have a picture to show, but there is an improvement on subdivisions, subsurf. Yes, if you're using a subsurf modifier or subsurf modifiers a lot. For example, you have a very low poly object and then you use maybe 2, 3 levels, 4, 5 levels of subsurf. There is now an improvement done for it to be to work better with multiple threads. So if you have a multi-core computer, especially if you have more than 4, like 8 threads, 16 threads, even more, 3240 like these computers, the subsurf is gonna perform better. So you're gonna have better performance. It's a performance that maybe got lost. Not maybe, it definitely got lost from 2.7 to 2.8. So if you had issues that subsurf was slower in 2.80 or 2.81 compared to 2.7, this should bring it much more up to speed. So very nice and very welcome improvement. More improvements. I have even 2 more improvements. So this one over here, it's library overrides improvements. So we had all kinds of improvements today. We had for cycles, we had one for tasks, which is very general for the subsurf, so in the viewport, and now we have one for library overrides. So this feature that was added for 2.80, there was the one that is supposed to replace proxies. There was quite some delay. It was a bit slow when working with linked proxies, and this has been the case forever. But now it's hard to tell from this video, but in the first, besides the poor transformation that Spring is going through, in the left, we can see that the selection and the transformation, there is a bit of a delay. So you click, you drag, you have to wait like a second or maybe half a second in very complex rigs. So the more complex your rig is, the more you will see this issue when you're working with linked characters using library overrides. Now it's pretty much instant. Like if you can see here, the selection and the transformation just happens super fast. So this is an improvement that was done that it's up to 5 times faster, library overrides. So super neat. Let's see the last commit that I have, the last change. Also a very big improvement that is completely different from the other one. So again, this one affects loading of stuff from your hard drive, from your disk. So in this case, is for the test is with images, with textures. So the name of the fix is use mutex for log in image.c. What does it do? Well, we can see here that I render. In this case, for example, originally I found that into looking a production file that I cannot share, but the core issue was while rendering. Blender stayed on updating shaders for about a minute for this one specific file. And as you can see, it's still for 1 minute, 66 seconds in just like updating the shaders. What is it doing when it's updating the shader? Well, it's maybe getting the textures, it's getting the textures from your hard drive. So after this tweak, it went from 66 seconds to 30 seconds. So it's about half the time that it took to load those textures. So you can read more about it if you're interested in this thread, but basically that's twice as fast loading of big files, of especially EXRs here. Sergey did a test on my computer here on Linux and got a speed up from 26 seconds to 16 seconds when loading this big EXR file. So very nice. And yes, that's insane. Speed ups on loading images or textures on like actual big files from your disk. Library overrides improvements for when you're linking stuff. Subdivision surface when you're using subsurf in the viewport is faster now. Cycles on Windows and overall fixes in tasks. Performance. And there are more coming, I heard, because performance is, the big thing. The undo experiments are also going, there is a branch with that specific development going on to improve undo. All right, let's continue. Graph editor. So in 2.81, pretty much every editor, had this feature where you can click and draw a box, even in the outliner now, where you can draw a box and box select everything. In the graph editor was a bit more complicated because you can select the points, but you can also select the keys, the handles of your the keys. So now when you the changes with the new changes, when you select box select a section and you try to move it, it's going to move the handles as well, which is not something that happened before. You have to click and also select the handles, which was a bit messy because you could have a handle like 2 kilometers away from it. So now that it's that is no longer the case. You can read more about the changes here on the different no differential, well, on the task actually 76 34. So basically now the handles are always moved. Selecting the key doesn't select the handles anymore. The selection is separate. For transformation it happens, but not for selection. Multiple keys and handles cannot be dragged. Dragging a handle moves all the selected handles on the same side. Okay. Grab, rotate, and scale should behave as before. Tweak dragging any handle can never affect any keyframe location, only handles. Okay. And here's the differential revision 6235. If you want to read more about it, you got some love from the community as well. Super nice. And text editor got improvements. This is more like a aesthetic by our aesthetic master Harley that goes into, for example, making the little things. You know, now you can change the theme color of the line numbers in the text editor. That's very nice. You can, for example, here in this case, there is a bit more padding on the sides of the lines number, so it's a bit easier to read. Before it was a bit too tight. Also, the cursor now scales properly, so you don't have this 1 pixel fixed line cursor anymore. Now it's actually scaling with the view. Here is changing the colors, I think, and it works better. You can now theme the colors, so you can make it match other softwares that you use in this case. And the highlight line option is one way that works on light backgrounds. So now you can actually make it work on light backgrounds, and you can read more of this task in B6268. Now I'm sending everybody to tasks. Go read it. You read it. All right. And last but not least, actually it's not but least, but the thing is we are in the text editor and it now has smooth scrolling. Yay. Such a small thing, but it makes it so much more smooth, of course. Smooth scrolling in text editor. Very nice. What else? Another tiny improvement, but the scroll bar size of the UI lists, these items, for example, for materials or for shape keys or UVs, now is not so thick anymore, because it used to be the old thickness level, which was a bit too much. So we will have these thin scroll bars here, and then these ones were twice as big, so now not anymore. So that's another nice addition. And that's it. There are a few other improvements. The outliner got improvements that will show you these settings for the operators for ID data, like make local and when they make sense. Before, some of the settings were available when actually they were not available. So they will show up now. That has been fixed. I think it was Dalai. Thank you, Dalai. And last but not least, the section for miscellaneous. So miscellaneous changes include an upgrade from Alembic. So Alembic got upgraded from 1.78 to 1.712. And that includes one of the, I can actually show you here the description. Introduces the DCC FPS. So it's a setting that can be specified to tell the software, in this case Blender, how many frames per second do we have in this animation. So it makes it easier for Blender to write the scene frame rate to the Alembic file. And they've been talking together with the USD people. Actually, Sibran, the developer that made this feature, also been talking with the USD people to get, the same feature features on Alembic and USD. And this one, I actually wrote it down because it's maybe useful for people writing add-ons. That gizmos now support drawing contrasting shapes at generic background, as generic backdrop. So if you're interested, go check this commit. But it's mainly for like add-on developers that want to make their own gizmos. All right, time to go to the questions because I only have 20 minutes. All right, let's get to it. Let's drink some water. If you're at home, you should also drink some water. Let's see. Donate to Blender now, yay! Yeah, I don't know how. I haven't seen if the development fund got any peak after the release. Oh no, actually we got more people, but there is less monthly contribution because it used to be 2093. Okay. Maybe it's that time of the month where credit cards, get canceled, or that it goes up and down. You see, like in the cloud stats, also we see that sometimes goes up and down. But hey, we got more people, so pretty nice. All right, let's get to the questions. So I'm gonna reload this. There is 56. All right, let's go from the top. Here. Oh, and I'm not logged in. Okay, let me log in. So I can actually heart this stuff. Is everything okay here in the chat? The website down? No? Okay. Let's get to it. So, asset manager, I think. Yes. Psst, Pablo, any updates on the asset manager? No, I wish, but the developer that is working, that will work on that is also working on the undo part, which now has priority. So yeah, no news there. I'm sorry. So Constantina asks, some time ago, Pablo Dobarro had worked on texture painting improvements that included adding properties to the paintbrush, like opacity, flow, density. Is it 2.82 going to include these improvements? Depends on how the review process goes, but I think I'm not familiar with it, but basically, yeah, I think it should be here. The developer, Campbell Barton, gave some feedback, so I think it's just a matter of addressing that feedback and yeah, get into it. But just follow this task usually, like you're already doing, sorry. Lapis C asks, hi Pablo, I was wondering, will particle nodes also replace the old hair system? Yes, it's well, now I'm not sure. Let me go back to you in that, get back to you on that. But the idea is that yes, they will be replacing here. There is linked, Sila is linking it to the task, but that's the idea because particle systems are over. Let's see. So Yokon 2 says, hi Pablo, please can developers show some love to the shadow catcher for 2.82? Catching indirect incoming light is so essential for VFX. Thank you. So is there a task for this? Let's I'm not familiar with the I know people have been asking for it, but I don't know, it is for shadow catcher for cycles. Yes. I don't know the status of this task, I'm sorry. Claudio asks, hi Pablo, on 2.81 completely changed my mind. My congratulations for the release. Hey, that's nice to hear. Thanks to this version, I will become a gold membership. It's a process, write it down. Thank you. Thank you, Claudio. You're awesome. So, thanks to Claudio, we're now going to see the development fund going up again. So, it changed my mind. That's cool. And you should use if this changed your mind, you should use the 2.82 just to, it keeps getting better. Damian asks, I tried to make a patch to the source code to implement custom face orientation color. I almost solved this conundrum. But still, how do we pass parameters to the overlay shader? Actually, there is a patch already, and here we are getting, yeah, this was actually posted already. So it's implemented already. somebody made it. It's just not in Blender yet because Clément Foucault is working on the overlays code in general in Blender. So yeah, it will take a bit longer. It's just not as like there is another developer working on a similar area, overlays engine. So sometimes this has to wait, but the developer, it's yeah, he made it, and it's hardly like we've seen him committing stuff for ages now. So yes. So maybe we find another quick hack for Blender. Actually, if you are looking into quick hacks to make in Blender, you can go to here, new devs. In developer.blender.org, there is a new section called new devs, where you can see what to look into, you know, like new advice, commit access, and tasks for new developers, where you can see these quick hacks and see what could be done. That is not like completely or super hard. Next question, PK Go. Hi Pablo, I got 3 quick questions, if you don't mind. I don't. When will we get armature collections? I haven't seen anybody talking about it yet. I don't think it's as high priority as the actual rigging system or in general, but I haven't seen anybody talking about it. Second question, why motion path no longer shows the preview point for meshes like armatures? It used to though. Maybe it's a bug. I'm not familiar with it, with this issue. Maybe report it. If it used to be and it didn't. The ghosting onion skinning is removed, but there is no replacement. Again, please report it because it's I'm not familiar with that change. Just so you can get an answer. Next question by XDroid. Hello Pablo, last week I posted a question and you say the answer may be on the Blender manual. I checked and found nothing about the meaning of watt light for power use in Blender, just power of the light in watts. Can you explain how Blender simulates light power and the meaning of watts for lights in Blender? Is watt equivalent to a bulb light, a LED light, or neon? How can I convert lumen in watts? I'm not familiar with that. I'm sorry, I'm not, I don't know how. But here we get some help by Maciesh Morgas. And I will need to ask the developers, but maybe we can ask in Dev Talk maybe, because there are developers hanging out there, and there is a Cycles forum where maybe just ask about, I think maybe, yeah, it's a good moment it's a good place to ask in here. Just to know, and then maybe we can get some of the developers, or maybe even Brecht, the creator of Cycles, to reply. All right, so next question by Momotron. Can Dr. Sivenen do a video tutorial where he explains USD when 2.82 is out? As far as I know, the code for the exporter is under review. Yes, it is under review. It's a nice idea to get for him to make a tutorial. Or a tutorial, but what kind of tutorial? Because it really is straightforward, I think, for exporting. But yeah, I can ask him. Well, I can get him here to show the feature. He literally works next to me, like there's a wall and on the other side. Next question. The Dragon says, any update about the option to change the colors in the face orientation? That's the... I already replied to this. Reanimate asks, with the object scatter are become a built-in add-on of Blender, can we get a proper integration with the object scatter becomes the Blender tools and more function and improve UI? Yeah, the object scatter was done by Jack Luke. He made this amazing add-on. About it becoming a tool, yes, maybe that's something another developer could look into. Right now, Jack Luke is involved in the Everything Notes project, so he's pretty busy with that. And just making this into a tool and improving the existing add-on, maybe it's a good task for a new developer to jump in and help out, because you know it's like the add-on is there, the functionality is there, but just improving it, maybe it's something the community can help out. So it'll be pretty nice. Sino asks, hi Pablo, is it true that you guys switching to 6 months release cycle? I don't mind if it means more polished features. Also, it is time to give more love to the input. editor. The key map editor, yes. No, 6 months, actually 4 months release. As you can see, 30 like in July was 2.80. November is month 11, and then yeah, it's 4 months. So it's 4 months release, and now the next one is gonna be in February. So that is actually less than 4 months, 3 months or so. So that's the idea, to have at least 3 or 4 releases per year. So the more releases per year, the better. Per year, the better, because it means that you get more fixes. It's not so much about the features. We're gonna get features, of course, but also it's about the fixes, that were done right after 2.81, so they can get people can get them in 2.82 as soon as possible. And also for not every release is gonna be like 2.80. Right, I see some people complaining like, hey, I just bought training for Blender 2.80 and now 2.81 is there and I cannot use it anymore. It's not like that, really. You can use tutorials from 2.7 even in 2.8, because not everything changed so much. Let's see the next question. So Johnny Lassiter asks, Blender 2.82 is not too far from having CAD modeling features. With a little improvement, Blender already has snapping, coordinates, and measuring. All is ready. Needed is a pencil to draw close shapes, polylines that can be extruded. Almost similar to the way you have spline editing, with simple polyline with the option to close and extrude, and bam, Blender CAD. I commend you, Pablo, for Blender Live. You set the trend for other open source apps for better collaboration and development of their apps. Yes. Yeah, I think this could be, it's Blender CAD. It just needs love from people, from the community, just to make this, to put all the tools together and make it happen. You set the trend for other open source apps, as in Blender or Blender Live. I don't know if I get that part, but basically I really hope that other open source apps start doing a Blender Today live, like a GIMP Today or Inkscape Today, Krita Today. Will be awesome. I will watch it for sure. Augusto asks, it's possible to add an option for random rotation and random scale on the array modifier. There is a turnaround for that, but the random rotation and scale will help a lot. That also sounds like a not so hard. Like I know nothing about it, about this tool, but doesn't sound like a super complex thing to add. So maybe it's good for new developers. Cobra asks, hi, any luck with the animation 2020? I feel rigging and animation are the parts that Blender lacks the most. And the animation editors are not such easy as in other animation softwares. Yeah, there is a bunch of, actually I have some tasks assigned, which are about improving especially the interface of the graph editor to make it more readable. Right now it's a bit of a mess. But with all the improvements that will be done to the UI, it should be easier to use. But the animation 2020 is more than that. It's more about the whole character pipeline and animation and modeling. And so yeah, I don't have anything to add now. I haven't heard much. We've been super busy with 2.81, but maybe I think for next year, 2020, we have to get that sorted out. So what's going on in the chat, by the way? I see a lot of action here, but I can't keep up. There's so much going on. Let's continue. Sophie says, hi, will the fracture modifier be in 2.82? I can't say, actually. I haven't seen new development happening going on now here. Hey, Unleashed says, don't forget to like and subscribe. That's a nice thing. Thank you, Unleashed. Yeah, subscribe. We're getting close to 500,000 subscribers. But I guess these kind of videos are not very interesting for everybody. This is very hardcore Blender development stuff. It's not like pay tutorials and stuff. Next question. Jenna D, is there any plans for adding upscale super resolution AI for Blender? I haven't seen anybody, any tasks about it, but who knows? I haven't seen any. Next question by David, or David. Can we get something with which make the text tool in 3D view work better? I haven't seen. I think there is an add-on for that, but I'm not. I'm not familiar with the. I haven't seen any add-ons or tools or improvements in that section. It would be awesome though. I think the text tool so far it's okay. We can now even have paragraphs and boxes and all kinds of. Like what else would you add to the text? Maybe animation, but that's more like animation nodes, maybe. So yeah. Next, let's continue. I know it's master. Thank you. You look very nice. Keep us as long as possible. Thank you. Perhaps Blender merch will keep us all young forever too. Blender merch. Awesome. Thank you, Anuis. Thanks, Pablo, for saying Pablo de Barros so many times today. Thank you. Okay, I'm at the questions that don't have any legs, so I should, to be fair, go to the bottom where the first questions that were asked, because the questions are sorted by time inverted. So the most recent are on the top. So to be fair, let's go to the bottom. Unleash75 is asks, so hi Pablo, and insert name. There is no one here. I'm all by myself. Love the live shows and all the work you all put into make Blender great. Also, a shout out to all the great community who helps others. Yes, shout out to the community, you helping each other. Like all the questions that have been answered here in the chat here are awesome. Thank you. And sharing links and stuff. It's so amazing. My question is related to the view and camera clipping. Will this get fixed to a global setting? At the moment, this actually was asked last week as well. But yeah, there is no plan that I know. Maybe in right-click select, maybe it would be, or maybe it's already asked, but it would be nice to have a plan. So what is it? It's still nice to have it per viewport, but maybe the default should be a global setting that is shared across. So how does it work? Where is this setting? Where do we set it? Can we disable this toggle and maybe make it local for this viewport? What's the name? How, like the whole UI would be nice to have like a mock-up for that. So that will make things a lot easier. One more thing, the Node Wrangler, is it about time it was turned on by default? Yes and no. I think that Node Wrangler is amazing. I use it, I have it on by default. But most people use it for like 2 or 3 features that are, or even more, but that are very important, like the control-click to preview, like to viewer, to connect the viewer, or the Control-T for adding a mapping node, or the principled shader all automatically connected, or the Control and drag to connect to. And there's a few features that should be part of Blender by default. And the Node Wrangler maybe could have more experimental features, or more like, you know, like controversial that maybe some people don't want because they mix with other add-ons. Or so yeah, I want to propose to move some of those features into the core Blender and keep the Node Wrangler as a add-on that has a that has more advanced features. Next question. Oh, it's already 6 o'clock here and it's dark, like if it was 3 a.m. but let's do 5 more questions because it's the last episode of the year. I want to have time to talk to you and hang out and stuff. So let's see. 14 Aryan Nudin, nice nickname. Hi there, Pablo. Hi there. I wanted to ask if it's possible to have the fall off of a brush in Sculpt mode accessible with the shortcut Shift O, like how you can change the fall off of proportional editing in edit mode. Have the fall off of a brush, is that even possible? Like the hardness, you mean? Yeah, that should be easy to connect. I think this helps making the shortcuts a little more consistent. What do you think? By the way, I've been testing the theory build features that speed up renders quite significantly, and I think they're pretty much ready to be implemented into the main branch. Any news about them? No, I don't know about the status of those patches, but the theory build that he or she mentions, it's in graphical.org, and there is a bunch of builds there by the community. The theory, I think it was somewhere here, right? It was people were uploading them somewhere here, I think. Theory. Well, you're gonna find them. You can find them here. Oh, actually, it hasn't been updated in a while, and since May, so maybe it's time for them to be updated there, and maybe split into smaller patches, so it's easier to test. So next, hey, just wonder what's up with for Linux daily build. Since 2.81 release, there is still the same. Oh, yeah, is that the case? Maybe it just needs to be poked again. 21st. Yes. Maybe I can go check out. Maybe not today because it's already 6 and most people probably are already leaving. But I can poke them and just ask the developers what's going on. Next question is I was checking how many people there is. 800 people watching this. Jesus. No pressure. All right. Sudo Blenux. In the question number 3, I think. Just wondering if there are plans for the text, not the UI text, in Blender to get updated. Compared to others in terms of geometry, it isn't that good. Same text in 3ds Max is a lot cleaner, among other things like features lacking. Thanks from the down under. Hey. No, I don't know of any plans to improve that, but maybe with a new remeshing, maybe it could be a bit better, or some new booleans. Like the text code in Blender, I think is engined, so maybe it's just a matter of giving another pass, some developer to go and give it a pass, making use of the new, like the booleans have been improved like 2 or 3 times, rewritten since the text is there, since the text tool is there, and there's new OpenBDB remeshing, and yeah, maybe there are tools for it, but I haven't heard of any plans yet. Question number 2. Arseny Popov asks, hello Pablo, and thank you for doing the show. It's amazing. Thank you. I found really weird problem with cycles. I want to import a heavy object, let's say a photo scan with 1,000,000 vertices. I want to see how it looks with environment texture lighting. Render mode, suddenly it's a load of RAM when cycles is updating the lights. Yes, that happens. If I switch to GPU, eek, it simple freezes my computer. Yes. Don't do that. F12 also turns into a kill button. Yes, no, don't do that. But if you import the same model into 2.79, it works perfectly. If you save 2.79 and open it in the newer Blender, it uses less memory than 2.79. Eek. Okay, this is a very interesting issue. I hope you can share this file because it looks very interesting. I don't know exactly how to fix it even, but please report it. But yeah, it's when you run the preview render of cycles in the viewport, it uses certain amount of RAM. When you render, it uses another amount of RAM. So make sure that you have enough for both things to live next to each other, or change the viewport to solid and then start the rendering, because otherwise it's gonna eat all your memory. Next question. Hi Pablo, is there a way to disable X-ray while in edit mode to select through the entire mesh? I usually don't care what's behind my mesh. Yeah, Alt Z. I use it all the time. Is that what you mean? Like Alt Z as in set? So when you're go here, you select, and then Alt Z, and you select what's behind, and then Alt Z again. I use it all the time, but I'm not sure if this is the one you're talking about. And okay, last question. Is there a way in Blender 2.81 to configure the file browser floating window and save it so it always stays that way, not only for the session? It should happen in 2.81. They should remember pretty much everything, at least the kind of listing that you have, and the position of the window. So if you open a new file, the position should be saved, and the kind of view that you have, thumbnails in this case, should be saved. So actually, yeah, I think you can see it here. I'm opening a new file and it's opening in thumbnails, which is not the default for opening. So I think it's already that way in 2.81. So, okay. Time to call it a day. I think I start calling it a day slowly, calling it a year also, right? It's 2019. There's still one extra month to the end of the year, but I'm gonna go on holiday soon in a few days, going back to Argentina. I'm from Argentina. I'm gonna spend there my holidays, Christmas and stuff with my family and friends. In the past, last year, I've done Blender.Today live streams. No, not live streams because internet's just not fast enough, but I've done it in the past. I uploaded videos usually. I don't know, you probably can see them in the Blender.Today. There is even the 2.8 versus 3. I think I made a video about it. Yeah, this one, for example, here. Okay, it's embarrassing, but this the kind of videos that I was doing last year. If you're already familiar with it, so this is my house in Argentina. I look more tired. I was probably more tired there. Oh yeah, because I had to wait for everybody to go to sleep, so I won't bother, and it will be like 3 a.m. And but yeah, in this I actually made a video about the Blender 2.8 versus Blender 3.0, like the difference. So I could maybe try and do that again when I get home, but I can't promise anything. So this might be the last time we see each other, at least live, for the time being. I'm gonna come back, of course, next year, at the beginning of January, maybe mid-January or so. We have to still define where, but I will try to upload videos and keep you updated, because Blender 2.82 is looking awesome. There will be new features coming in until the first week or so of December, first to second week of December. So there will be enough things to talk about. Thank you everybody for the very nice comments, and happy Christmas, happy New Year's, happy holidays, whatever you celebrate. It's been awesome. This year has been insane. We started this year with 2.79 being the stable release. Then we had, during the whole winter in this part of the world, all the way until July, where it was the final release of Blender 2.80. Then we saw 2.81 last week, and we are entering 2.82 development cycle. So can you even imagine what for us? I don't know, for me it feels very natural. Yeah, so just keep the features coming. But for people outside, I had some friends saying, it's like, how do you guys keep coming with new why, how? Well, that's open source. That's when you get thousands of downloads in a few days. You get developers from all over the world contributing. Now, luckily, thanks to the development fund, we can make it people can make this for a living, but there is also still lots of volunteers helping out around the world, users, people contributing, like sharing and answering questions online. This is about the community, right? Blender is about the community, something that you can't really pay. You couldn't pay all the thousands of people that reply forums and questions and support and Facebook and YouTube videos and tutorials. You just can't. This is the love for what Blender is and what Blender has become over the last 25 years. Remember, January 2nd is the birthday of Blender. It's going to be 26 years next year. Yes, Blender is not only since it was open source, actually it was 26 years. So let's do it again, maybe not live. I will try my best. I don't know how internet got down there at the end of the world. I'm going to be in Patagonia in South Argentina, so internet's far from ideal, especially for live streams, but I might be able to upload some stuff. Thanks for staying until the end. It's been a pleasure. Some people said I was not even born when Blender was out. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, Blender is older than a lot of people here in the chat. Not feeling old at all. All right, let's make it a day, a year. Thank you for staying until the end. if you're using headphones, remember, this moment is when you put them out. You take them out because it's gonna maybe be a bit too loud for the music, or maybe too awesome for this that happens in 5, 4, 3, 2. Thank you, gracias, dankjewel, merci, dankeschön, grazie tante mille. Ciao, see you soon, maybe next year. I hope we are there before. Ciao, bye.